Watauga Arts Council with your host, Cherry Johnson, serving arts in Watauga County for more than 30 years.
Hi, I'm Cherry Johnson with Watauga County Arts Council, and I'd like to introduce some folks to you, and then I'll tell you all about why they're here. This is Emma Holland, and I have Teresa Lee, and I have Victor Rivera. Teresa has probably, you may remember Teresa, you've seen her many times. She is a professor at the Department of Theater at the university, at Appalachian State University. And mostly I know her from her Young People's Theater productions. Mm-hmm. This particular one isn't, but it's a really intriguing production that you're doing. Trust Teresa to come up with something. As she's sucked in.
It is. It's a very interesting show. As you say, it's the Department of Theater and Dance. I just kind of want to say where we are, which is in the Valborg Theater on campus, kind of right behind the Turchin Center,
right.
Off of King Street, so if you know where that is.
For the old timers, it's Chapel Wilson. It's
Chapel Wilson building, that's exactly right. We're doing a wonderful spring production.
Yeah.
It takes place in the spring
Paris
of Paris.
Spring.
That's right. It is called The Mad Woman of Chaillot, written by Jean Giraudoux, and it was written during the occupation of France in the mid-1940s. But it is, in my mind, it could have been written last week. It's still so relevant to so many things that are going on today. It's kind of a social, no, it's not kind of, it is a social commentary. Think about maybe like a softened version of Stephen Colbert. I've called it a satirical allegory. I don't know if that's really exactly accurate, but it is like an adult fairy tale.
Okay, so what's the plot line?
So
what makes this so intriguing?
Well, I want to include some of the actors, and so maybe they can help me tell a little bit of the story. We don't want to give away the end of the play because we want people to come and see how it ends. But the basic setup is that it takes place in the first act in a cafe in Paris. And there are greedy, we call them suits, but not to speak disparagingly of anyone who wears a suit, but it is about those folks who are in suits and corrupt. And they're greedy and think about Bernie Madoff and those kinds of guys who ran the Ponzi schemes and things. And so it's a bunch of greedy oil presidents and brokers and prospectors and barons are plotting to drill oil from underneath Paris. So they want to put an oil well in.
Right beside the Eiffel Tower.
That's right, exactly. And the common people who normally come and go in the cafe, they are colorful, full of life people. And when they get wind of this conspiracy to actually they're going to blow up one of the government buildings so that they can get rid of anybody who's going to stop them from doing this.
Oh my goodness!
So there's a real true conspiracy. So that's why I'm saying it's some of the themes are really sophisticated and it's not exactly for children, but it's
probably
kind
too
of
intense.
It is, and but it is, believe it or not, a comedy because the characters are so wacky, that they get wind of this conspiracy and they want to come along and save Paris. Enter the Mad Woman of Chaillot.
Emma the Mad Woman.
Emma is playing the Mad Woman of Chaillot. Countess Aurelia. And maybe you could talk a little bit about what she's about and how it is that she becomes this kind of accidental hero.
She's a romantic for the most part, and I think predominantly follows the romantic essence that she carries. She sees beauty first and foremost in every person that she meets until she meets these suits. Her fellow vagabonds, which is a friendly term we use for the people of the cafe she really has brilliant relationships with. They're part of her daily routine. And she can call on them in an instant, but she's out of her mind. It's not. She's not a.
She's truly a mad woman.
Yes, she is.
She's eccentric.
I bet this is fun.
It's been a lot of fun. Yeah, it's a different kind of a challenge for me as an actor coming into this role. We did something very subtle last semester that was very different from what we were doing this semester. Victor and I were both a part of that production as well. But she decides to fix the problem by, wanting to plot to get rid of all of the wicked people of the world. And so it's a very intricate plot where she incorporates everybody who lives around Chaillot to come to the cellar of her house and have a trial and all kinds of other stuff.
A mock trial.
Yes, it's a mock trial.
It's like a make-believe. If we had all the evil people in the world and we could put them on trial, would we be allowed to do that? And so the role that Victor plays, he's called the rag picker, and he's basically a man who's fallen on hard times, and he lives on the street, but he's adjusted to that, and that's how he makes his way in the world. But he's actually, the irony of it is that he's one of the ringleaders of the vagabonds, and so Victor, if you can talk a little bit about your role in the play.
Yeah.
Without giving away the end.
All right, giving away the ending. I am the rag picker, and who's the mad woman's sort of sidekick, and he's very expressive and dramatic, and he has adjusted to street life, so he goes around and rummages through garbage cans, and he sort of picks up things here and there, and he's very willing to play along with Mad Woman's dream. As it is with all the vagabonds. And then for the second act, for the mock trial, he pretends that he is the president, and he speaks sort of an anti-Lorax, so he speaks against the trees, as it were, of all of the presidents and barons, and puts them in a slimy light, but it's really a lot of fun.
So in today's world, with so many parallels within this story, of the greed and of the the various things. Who are the rag picker and who's the mad woman?
Good question. What would you say?
I feel that since this is a satirical allegory, that
She couldn't have thought of a more complex term.
that's a wonderful, makes us sound a lot smart. That the rag picker would probably be Jon Stewart or someone who brings up the issues but has this sort of comical slide to it. And then...
Yeah, the vagabonds, I think, represent the people. I think about the Occupy Wall Street movement. And not that they're not necessarily, literally, those people who are out protesting every day, but it's the social conscience. To take it back, to draw the parallel with the occupation of France, because we're not sticking faithfully to the time period that we take some poetic license with it, but basically we are anchoring the place and time in the 1940s in Paris, because the play was written in the context of the occupation of France and Paris in particular. And the playwright actually worked for a time in the government. So he saw a lot of the government corruption, and he was also upset about what was happening, with the occupiers getting some of the French people to collaborate. So there were the occupiers, the collaborators, the people that, and some of the characters in the play represent the collaborators, the people that will, sell their soul in order to survive in this terrible situation. And then there's the French resistance, and I think that the vagabonds really represent them, and they the underground, the French underground, and how when the mad woman calls all the vagabonds together for this mock trial. It takes place underground in her cellar. So, you know, I definitely think that's what that represents. You know, there's a lot of symbolism in the play.
Well, speaking of symbolism, you know, going back to the modern times and so forth, when you're watching the news and you see the things that are going on today, you feel a relevance?
Yes, absolutely. I think that anybody that keeps up with current events, anybody that sees the headlines, you're going to recognize things that are happening in today's world, not just in this country, but all over the world. You're definitely going to recognize those themes being talked about in this play in a really delightful kind of way. I think it's taking a weighty subject matter and really treating it in a very lighthearted, kind of zany, wacky way.
I think to some degree that's been going through my head while you've been talking about this. You know, it's during a time of very difficult time, an occupied society, you know, that is dealing with all those problems. Think of Anne Frank, think of all the things that, you know, relate to that.
Heavy
Exactly,
stuff.
And yet there's this lightness, and it's almost like a survival technique.
Yes. Yes, I think there is something to be said about that. It's also, I think, about perspective. I'll say this, that I think a lot of times in hard times, the arts suffer from having financial cutbacks and things like that. You certainly know very well about that with being, you know, with the Arts Council. But having said that, I think what happens a lot of times in times of social turmoil, that the artist's spirit rises to the top. And I think that artists begin to take over in a way that they don't, that they're more passive, you know, when things are kind of all rosy, that you know, we kind of I just feel like that's kind of what Girardot was writing about, because he was an artist himself. A writer of poetry. He was a poet, and so he got involved in the theater scene there. And I just think that what he was saying is, when it seems bleak and it seems like humanity is pitted against humanity. You know.
Well, I'm thinking about after 9/11.
And after yesterday.
And after yesterday. Well, this is being taped the day after the Boston bombings. And when you think about I remember after 9/11 about how many people wrote poetry, wrote songs, drew pictures, did sculptures, all the different things. The arts are the way that we express what's inside and what's hurting. And that's such an important part, and it does surface, even in times of cutback, it still emerges.
Yes, absolutely.
And it's how we celebrate and chronicle our lives.
Yes.
You know, how many funerals have you gone to that had no arts in them at all?
None.
You know.
So and it is the way we celebrate, and it is the way
weddings or whatever we do. You know,
our spirits are regenerated and rejuvenated, and I think that now in the springtime of the year, that it really correlates with the cycles of nature. And that's a kind of an underlying theme in the play that the Mad Woman talks about in her millions of lines that she has to say.
Yes, I have plenty that I say, and not necessarily all of it makes sense, but it makes sense
it harder
to her.
To learn, doesn't it?
Yes, which has been a consistent struggle, as they can both attest to.
She has worked very hard.
Yes, and I'm continued working because I'm very close to being where I need to be, but I'm not quite there yet.
But we have another week, a little over a week before we open, so we're okay.
This is so good, though. This is great, because look at the experience you're getting.
Yes.
You know. Now, this is a large cast, you tell me?
Huge.
Teresa's crowning jewel.
Yes, if I survive this. I typically do about the largest cast size I have worked with in the past is 12 to 15. This has 29 people in it, and so it's a lot.
You feel like
of,
a first grade teacher in need of a teacher
It
aide?
is a lot of. I have a wonderful team of creative collaborators with me, many of them students.
That's great.
I feel very fortunate. I just have to say, on a personal note, this is a play that we did in my undergraduate program, and I've been in love with this play for years. And
I told you, I think it suits your personality. If you know Teresa, this is definitely down her alley.
So I've been wanting to do this play. I've been wanting to direct this play for a good portion of my life.
What a great treat.
Getting to do it here, and this is my 25th year of teaching it in the Department of Theater and Dance there at Appalachian. So
what a way to
this
celebrate
is a wonderful
that. Yes,
celebration for my quarter century of
That's
work
great.
there. And I think it kind of really combines my love of theater for adults and theater for children. And I have to say, a little choked up because I tend to do that, but these two are seniors about to graduate, and they both have been involved with me for the last 4 years. They did the Appalachian Young People's Theater and got to direct them in shows there, and have collaborated with both of them on several projects, and it really chokes me up to think about them leaving, because they get to be like your kids, It's
But you're just spinning
it's
out,
like,
that's what you're doing. You're training them, spinning them out, and they'll have the
exactly.
Because now, what are your plans, Victor?
Well, actually, right after I graduate, then I'm going to go to New York to have my debut in a one-act, which is exciting.
And you've already got this lined up.
Yeah.
Man,
Which
I'm
was
impressed.
also written by
One of our
alums.
alum, Jonathan Fitz. So that's super exciting.
Fantastic. Well, congratulations
Thank
on
you very
that.
much.
That's
Thank
not every graduate can say, I'm ready to roll right into the next phase.
He's got his job.
So, that is great. Now, what about you?
I've been accepted to a grad school at in San Francisco, the Academy of Art University. I have until the end of May to decide if I'm going to go.
Wow.
And it's still
You're going to think about whether you want to go to San Francisco?
From Boone, it's a very different kind of transition.
Yeah.
So, but I'm looking at my options right now. I've applied for a few internships that I'm still waiting to hear back from.
But Emma also has other world interests.
Yes,
She has
I
ties
am
in
actually.
Africa, so.
I'm actually, as soon as I graduate, spending a good portion of my summer in the southern part of Uganda. So,
Wow.
yeah, my
Doing
younger
what?
service and arts therapy, actually.
Wonderful.
Yeah, my little sister was adopted from a small village in that area. Shameless plug. You should look up Embrace Uganda. And I will be
Embrace
spending a good portion of my time working in a few orphanages there.
That is really cool. And you're using your arts in that too.
Yes.
Yep, we sing with the choirs every time we go. The last summer that I was there, we did a theatrical performance of the children's abduction, which was a very heavy thing, but for most of them it was the first time they'd talked about anything like that. So it's very interesting. We do music, we do dance, we do theater, and as well as visual art. So
Amazing.
I am very impressed.
yeah.
See, there
That's
again,
great.
arts bringing the world together, lifting spirits, helping to heal.
Absolutely. So important, isn't it? So I'm certain that everybody's wanting to see this now. But when is
Yes.
it? Where is it? What's the story?
They better want to come see it. Yes, we really do hope that people will turn out. It's April 24th through the 27th at 7:30 p.m. It's in the Valborg Theater, as I said before. There is a matinee performance on April 28th at 2 p.m. Ticket prices start at just $8 for students. And for more information, you can go to www.theater.appstate.edu, or you can call the box office at 828-262-3063.
Excellent.
So that's
So all of you socially conscious people in need of a good laugh,
or just come have fun. It's not the messages are there embedded in the zaniness of the show, but you can just come and laugh and have a good time.
And don't worry about all those
Don't
messages.
worry. It's a lot of physical comedy, bright costumes, beautiful set,
Beautiful actors.
beautiful actors. So
Go on.
so So I think it will be very entertaining for many members of the family.
And a wonderful way to end this school year.
Yes, yes,
Yes.
yes. It's a big production where a lot of the students can be involved all at once.
The Mad Woman
Woman
of
of
Shiloh.
Shiloh.
That is hard to say. Come and check it out. And check out the Arts Council's website, watauga-arts.org, for information about this and so much more.
Watauga Arts Council with your host, Cherry Johnson, serving arts in Watauga County for more than 30 years.